So the current state of the Hill, are we able to get my
I'm getting that.
slides up? So typically I do a state of the university address every year at homecoming. How many of you were at the state of the university address this year at home? So for those of you that were not, then you missed quite the update. So I'm gonna give you an abbreviated version of that, but I encourage you, if you can put it on your calendar, since you come to homecoming, on Fridays, the Friday of homecoming around noontime is typically when I do the state of the Hill for alums in particular. And it's important that you get that information firsthand and upfront. You still waiting on slides?
I think it's the youth.
There we go.
All right. Represent well. So all of you have heard that our university is on a journey to eminence. We have a 10-year strategic plan called Journey to Eminence 2035 that is guided by one simple statement. It is our vision statement that in 10 years, your alma mater, Prairie View A&M University, will be a premier public research-intensive HBCU that serves as a national model for student success. Well, what does that mean? All right, three things. Premier, when I say premier, I mean top public HBCU. Top 10 is the goal. Now, I will tell you, I prefer top 5. My folks have told me, can we be realistically ambitious? Because it takes a while to move those metrics, and I'll tell you in a moment where we are. Research intensive. Today, Prairie View is research intensive. We're a Research 2 university today. Our goal is to be a Research 1 institution, which is the highest level of research any institution can attain. Today, there is only one HBCU that's a Research 1 institution that is hacked, right? And they are, now there are about 5 of us who will be Research 1 institutions probably in the next 10 years, but Prairie View will be among the first ones. And the last is a national model for student success. And when I think about being a national model for student success, if we think about the students that Prairie View specializes in, first generation, low income students, African American students, students who come from rural communities. Well, when you think about the landscape of students that will be coming to college in the future, they will more likely be the first in their family to go to college, more likely to be low income. And so Prairie View has something that we can offer the nation as far as a perspective of how you educate and create cultures of care and community for those students. When we talk about being premier institutions, you don't get premier status by talking about yourself. You get premier status by making yourself useful, right? Where people can learn from you. And so that is our focus. On the screen are a few points of pride. I know we have lots of them that I share, but I wanted to highlight these. If you have not taken a picture of our latest points of pride, I would encourage you to do so, just so that you have the talking points about your institution. I am a brand person. I am keen on making sure that Prairie View's brand is strong. And one of those things that makes sure our brand is strong is that we all say the same thing. Right? We can't run into folks in the grocery store. Jeff Bezos, for example, and he says, so what is Prairie View known for? And we start saying things that are old and antiquated, right? So we got to have the updated information. So what is that updated information? You'll be proud to know that your institution continues to be a top producer of African Americans in key fields. We're number 1 in architecture in the nation. We're number 4 in engineering. We're number 3 in marketing and agriculture and some others. But these are top high demand fields I wanted to highlight for you. And we're number 13 in the nation out of 3,400 institutions across this nation. Prairie View is number 13 in producing African Americans fast. So you should be proud. When I've been thinking about that, in the state of Texas, there are about 36 public, 44 institutions overall. And we got some pretty heavy hitters in Texas. You know, when I say heavy hitters, I'm talking about an institution that serves tens of thousands of students. A&M serving about 80,000 students, UT about 90,000 students, and little over is the number 1 producer of Black folks with degrees in the state of Texas.
Oh,
right? And so when we talk talk about being a national model for student success and the impact that our institution has had on this stage, I want to move that from graduates to quantified in dollars. Our institution's annual economic impact, this is data as of fiscal year 24, is $1.2 billion in the state of Texas. That's our graduates when they go out and leave and work across the state. When we talk about people who work for our institution and what they give back, $1.2 billion. So when we talk about our institution and why Prairie View matters, talent pipeline, the students that we're producing, but Texas want to be the best at everything. They don't care whether it's fishing, basket weaving, states, and economic. Right, and so we got to be clear that our institution contributes in a meaningful way in that way. The last thing I'll highlight on this slide is that we have eclipsed for the first time in our institution's history, $53 million in research expenditures. What does that mean? In order to become a research one institution, there are two things that you must achieve. You must have at least $50 million in research expenditures and at least 70 doctoral graduates on an annual basis across a 3-year period. So our institution, our highest was about $36 million. We've now eclipsed $50 million. Our faculty and students are doing research at that level. Let me pause here and just say this. Sometimes when I talk about being a research institution, people ask me questions like, is Prairie View the kind of place that should be a research institution? Or why does it matter? What does it even mean? So think about this. Being a research institution means that you are committed to the spirit of inquiry. Research is simply the discovery of new knowledge. And so if we think about some of society's greatest and most complex problems, they exist because the right people are not at the table to help find the solutions. That's why it matters that Prairie View is a research institution. We're not just pursuing research for research's sake, but we're pursuing research that improves the human condition, right? That's one part. The second part is then the competitive advantage it gives our students. Because when new knowledge is created on our campus, guess who are the first consumers of it? Our students. And that gives them a competitive edge. And many of them have also contributed to it. So if you simply think about being a research institution, is that we are an institution that is committed from moving our students from being just consumers of knowledge to creators of it. That's what we're trying to do. Make sense?
Yes.
All right. Your institution is on an upward trajectory. Our student success metrics continue to increase every year. Our 4 and 6 year graduation rates continue to improve 4 and 6 percentage points. Our degrees awarded are skyrocketing, and doctoral graduates are also skyrocketing. But the thing that I'm most pleased about is that we're graduating more students on time. Mm-hmm. And we're decreasing debt. Like that's student success, right? Decreasing manageable debt. Our student success, our graduation rate, 6 year graduation rate this year is 47%. That's about where the top 20 HBCUs are. That's about the national average for African Americans. And while that's great, I'll show you some data in a moment. It's not good enough. Right? Because when a parent drops off their students, they're looking for 100% graduation rate of their home. Right? And so we have work to do there. Fundraising, I'll let Jeff talk about fundraising a little bit. I don't know why the clip is not working. But our fundraising continues to improve. I will tell you the data that you're looking at, these increases are from fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 24. And so what you see up top is our latest metric in that area. So we have added an additional $63 million beyond our average fundraising right now, which is about $10, $11 million, largely because of a beautiful woman named Mackenzie Scott. Yeah. Who gave Prairie View its second Mackenzie Scott gift. And lastly, I've already talked to you about research. And so I share this because I want you to know that your institution continues to rise. The other place where we continue to rise is in enrollment. Some of you know that our institution has grown probably about 1,200 students since I arrived. We're at 10,106 students. We're the 4th largest HBCU. But I will tell you, people ask, well, why did you think it was important to grow enrollment? And I'm going to show you the budget at the moment. Because I think people have to understand the business model of public higher education. This money largely comes from tuition and fees. states don't invest in higher education as far as expenditures on that level. And so the only way that you can get increased revenue is two ways. Either you increase what people pay, and I'm not interested in doing that yet, or you increase the number of people who pay, right? So that you can have the resources needed to invest back into the systems. What I will tell you is that at this 10,100 student mark, we'll probably stay here for a couple of years until we can rebuild it. And I have some exciting news to share with you. The other place where we are soaring is in athletics. So this athletic season has been an exciting one for us this academic year. We've been in the flag championship, basketball, going to the NCAA tournament for the first time, women's golf, volleyball, softball. We kill it in almost every. That's right. I mean, we are doing wonderful things. One of the reasons why this is important is because you all know athletics brings a higher level of pride and excitement to the campus. But one of the things it really does, it gets you new friends for your institution who would not have known you existed if you were not winning. Right. And when I say new friends, I'm looking for new friends that write checks. Yeah. I want to be clear about that. Yeah. A few other things that I would mention is our faculty and staff continue to do great work, whether it's research or representing their field. Prairie View is front page news in many disciplines, and you should be pleased to hear that. And similarly, our students are doing the same thing, right? So when we talk about excellence lives here at Prairie View, our students, faculty, and staff are personifying that. But the thing I want to be clear about is that excellence is not just a standard that you can achieve and it's over. Excellence, the bar moves, right? And so that means that there's always room for improvement. Right? But I wanted to share with you some excellent things. So places for improvement. Higher education is facing a new horizon. A lot changing in higher education. The DEI ban that many states are facing, particularly Texas. How does that impact us? Financial instability, challenges to academic freedom. Artificial intelligence is growing. People don't want to come to work, they want to work from home. And then the college value question is a big question. So let me address the DEI question. Some of you may have seen an article that was written by the defendant. And one of the questions they asked was about how has the impact of the DEI shift impacted places like Prairie View A&M University? I'm going to tell you a couple of things. One, I do think that as an institution, as an HBCU, we are more attractive to students and their families than we have been in a long time. Because families really want to make sure that their young people have a sense of community and have a sense of belonging, right? We've always done that. The question about what can be taught or researched, I'll tell you, in going through the data that we were required to submit, we have 3,200 courses that are part of our catalog each semester, and some of them differ. We had 9 courses that were flagged for question. And I'll tell you, we didn't have to cancel any of them. A couple of things. When you stay grounded in your mission, our mission is to provide a broad education for students to have different experiences, for them to critically think and decide what they believe, what they know to be true. As long as we continue to educate in that way, focus on our mission, we ain't going far. And so we're proud of the work that we have been able to continue to do at Prairie View with very little infrastructure. We've had some grants, for example, some federal grants that were called into question. We appealed, we had 6 of them, we appealed, and we got 4 of them restored. And so my point to you is we are, standing 10 toes down on who we are, because that matters in this moment. And I wanted you to make sure that I wanted to address that. Well, with respect to the college value question, a lot of people right now are questioning whether one needs to even go to college, right? The data that you see on the screen is just bars, and I don't know whether you can see it, but it just shows you the decline in individual and Americans' view of the value of a college education, declining from 75% of Americans in 2010 said it was very important. And now it's down to 35%. And this decline is even showing up in communities where higher education was really valued, lower income communities and people of color in particular. Well, what that means is that we have to think about this storm we're in higher education, right? That means that we can't do things the same. The world is changing around us. And I'll ask you, if you think about a company that used to exist that no longer exists, somebody give me one. Blockbuster. Sears. Enron. That's a different one. Yeah. So we're saying, right, but if Spirit, there's Circuit City. So when you think about these companies that are no longer in existence, right? It's not that the product they provided is no longer being provided, but it's their business model was not sustainable, right? So I am here to tell you everything about our strategic plan is saying that we must shift, right? Those outcomes that I'm talking about, being premier, research intensive, and national market success, that's what the institution should look like in 10 years. But what it means is that we can't move and operate the same way we've been moving and operating. We have to move faster, more nimble, and be responsive to the times. So that's where we are. When I think about institutions, and I talk all over the nation about this, asking institutions, can they stand the rain? Really, I mean that from a new edition perspective. Because there is a skill in being able to withstand storms and struggle. Can you take the slide back one for me? My clicker, I think I'm between people. Thank you. Prairie View has a history. Forward.
Go back one more.
Go back one.
Prairie View has a history of being able to withstand struggle. Right? So if you think about, we were founded in 1876, slave plantation. So between 1876 and 1951, our university was in a period of struggle. Still doing great things, but punching well above our weight. And then 52 to 86 was a growing period of strength. Right? More investment and resource. Had to sue some folks to get it. Right? But it was a period of strength. And then our institution between 87 and 2025 has been growing in strength and excellence even more. And now we're on this journey to eminence. And so my point is, what we are seeing around us, Prairie View has been difficult.
Right.
Right. And we have withstood that, but now we're going to withstand it with intentionality. I just share this with you because one of the things people have asked me in our vision statement, I'm very clear that we want to be a premier public HBCU. People say, why do you keep saying HBCU? Because that's who we are. That's who we're going to be. We are proud of it. It is our distinctive and competitive advantage, and this is why. HBCUs in this nation represent just 3% of institutions. But when it comes to professional African Americans, we contribute more than half, in some places 80%. Judges, doctors, lawyers, pharmacists, military officers, engineers, HBCUs do that. Right? That's our focus. That's the importance in the value proposition. So if you ever run into somebody now that asks you, why do we still have HBCUs in 2026? You can say, because the nation needs us. Right? All right. Let's move on to Prairie View real quick. Feel like I'm having a thing back here. I'm gonna move over y'all, so just forgive me. So we're talking about college, the value of colleges questioned by many. But I will tell you, for African Americans, it is still the best thing one could do to get a return on their investment. What we have to make sure of is, as I was talking about those graduation rates improving, when I say national model for student success, I'm not just stopping at graduation. See, it's one thing for me to hand you a diploma and you walk away and you go back home with mom. I need you when you cross my stage. Within 6 months, I need you going to graduate school or your first job, right? Livable wage job. not just any job. Military service or entrepreneurship within 6 months of graduation. If that becomes our beacon, then we can move and elevate to levels of prestige very different than we've seen before. So I'm going to go through real quickly a couple of areas I just want you to be familiar with. 10,000 students, we still remain committed to low-income students. About 70% of our students come from 175% below the federal poverty level. Pell Grant students, any Pell Grant students in the house? I was. Being a Pell Grant student, 175% below poverty. Somebody told me that when I was growing up, I said, I wasn't that poor. Right? Because you had a lot of support, right? But what you did not have is access to information and opportunity. And that is what we do. We still serve 80+% of Texas residents, 80+% of African Americans, and our male population, which is one of our most concerning populations, is about 35%. It's a national trend, but we don't want to be trending with the nation in this way, right? We need more of our young men to come to college. So a little information about our freshman class, most recently, because I want you to understand where we are and who we are educating. Our students, our academic profile, our freshmen this past year, we brought in 2,300 freshmen, had an average GPA of a 3.33. 7% of that group were in the top 10% of their class, 20% were in the top 25% of their class. But I'm gonna tell you, we can do better than that. Yeah. Right. I need more high ability students to choose Prairie View. That's right. And it's not always the money, right? But the money does matter. Right? And so when it comes to high ability students, they have lots of choices. And I want to make sure that Prairie View is on the table for consideration with their families. The one that I want you to pay the most attention to is the college readiness. The incoming class, about 40% of the students are not college ready. Now, the state of Texas does better than most states in looking at this data. Their data suggests that about 50% of eighth graders right now are not slated to be college ready. Right. Now, what that means is that they have a deficit, oftentimes in math or reading. This is why at Prairie View, we have summer grade programs. And our students don't pay a dime for it, right? But we need investors so that we can have more summer bridge programs, because those programs in 6 weeks shore up those students so that they can start on par with their peers. See, we don't assess college readiness at the admission stage. We look at your high school transcript and your SAT scores, and we decide if you're admissible. And then we find out where do we need to bridge for you so that you can be successful here at Prairie View. We have 37 undergraduate degrees, 35 masters, and 6 doctoral programs. That's just for your information. We are currently in the midst of an academic strategic realignment process, meaning we are evaluating every academic program to make sure it is a viable program and appropriately funded, and is it fitting in the right place to create synergy and interdisciplinary opportunities for our students. This is just a, are you touching now? This is just an example of, I don't know what has happened, of our schools and colleges. This data that you see here is student success metrics. I don't know if you can really see it. What's highlighted here is Prairie View student success metrics. We are number 26 in the state. 26 in the state. For public schools with our graduation rate of 47%. So you remember I said parents are looking for graduation 100% of their one? That data is public information, right? So when I think about where we have the greatest opportunity, the average nationally is about 6 out of 10 students graduate within 6 years. That's the average national. As I told you, we are right at the average of African American student graduation rates at about 4 out of 10. But I believe our students can graduate at or above the national average under the right conditions and circumstances. So based upon that, we have changed our student support model at the institution. This last slide I'm sharing with you about student success is a data analysis for degree completes. The purple bar is Prairie View. The red bar is Texas Southern. And then you see a few other institutions here, Texas International. This chart is institutions in Texas that serve student populations are 60% or more Pell students, the poorest students in the state. Right? Now, Let me just make sense of this for you. If these 6 institutions serve the poorest students in the state, Prairie View and Texas A&M students lead with the highest debt load. Highest debt load. What did I say? Oh, Texas Southern, I'm sorry. Thank you, Texas Southern students lead with the highest debt load. And the largest percentage of our students lead with that. Now tell me where that makes sense. A student who serves the poor, an institution who serves the poorest students, their students leave with the highest debt load and the highest percentage of debt, right? A few things that have to happen. We have to quickly reduce time to degree. Yes, the national average is 6 years, but we need to give it up to 4.
Right.
4.5, 5, right? The longer they stay, the more debt they acquire.
Right.
We have to work to keep tuition affordable. So since my arrival, we have not raised tuition, although, yeah, we could use the money, but we've not raised tuition. And we are also working to increase our student scholarships so that we can help offset some of that debt for our students. So our students were really clear with me when I arrived, as well as hearing from alums about your students' experience, that we needed to revisit how we educated students and served them. This is just an example of how voice has impacted that process. We heard from our students they needed more guidance and advice. When I came, they felt like they had to go find their person. They didn't know where they were. They didn't know who they were. And if you were not a legacy student and your mama didn't know somebody in the registrar's office, you were left out there on your own. They felt like they did. It builds character though. But they felt like they needed a support system better than what existed. And today's students don't seek help in traditional ways, in the ways institutions have had it designed. So we say things like, well, they don't come seek help. Well, they go to YouTube and TikTok. But they seeking help in venues where we are not, and with non-experts oftentimes. And the last is that as institutions, sometimes we tend to organize ourselves by what's more efficient for us and not what's best for the students. So my point in all of this is that we have come to a new model of culture and care and responsiveness for our students. It is grounded in guidance and advice from a team called PV Cares, which I'll talk about in a minute, a transformative curricular experience. We are utilizing data, artificial intelligence, and predictive analytics in ways in which we have not before, and expanding even more, building campus relationships where students will have mentors on campus and expanding their network and focus on their health and well-being. Ultimately, our goal at Prairie View is to do more than give students a piece of paper. We want them to leave with a self-efficacy, a sense of belonging, and self-confidence. If you can leave with those things and credentials, you can be a bad somebody. So the model that we have deployed is something called PV Cares. Every student, every undergraduate student at PV has a cares team of these 3 humans. A professional academic advisor that is responsible for helping them develop a 4-year career plan. If they got some extra prerequisites, maybe 5, but a clear plan of how you're gonna get out of here on time. A financial counselor, not a financial aid counselor. We have gotten rid of financial aid counselors on my campus. We do have people who are experts in financial aid. But a counselor's job is not just about what forms to complete. It is about how do you use this college going process to build the foundation of financial literacy, smart borrowing, investing in yourself. Like maybe you need an on-campus job instead of going to work at the Foot Locker and you don't have no car to get the Cypress. Like all of those things. And the last is a career coach to help students explore the careers they don't know exist. To help them begin to participate in out-of-classroom experiences to apply what they're learning in class so they can develop a narrative about what college has taught them, not what courses they've taken, because nobody cares. And lastly, to help them expand their network, because we all know it is not just about what you know, it is about who you know.
That's right.
And it's even better when somebody knows you.
Yeah.
Right? And so that is important. Those are the things that are the unwritten rules in this world that sometimes we don't teach our students. I'm going to skip research only because we've already talked about research. I want to get to some exciting things about the state of the Hill and some additional priority areas, but I want to start with the budget. How many of you have ever seen Prairie View's budget? Our budget in 25, fiscal year 25, $306 million. And I want you to know that what you're looking at is a pie of all of those funding sources and where the money comes from. So I told you State appropriations, the state contributes about 25% of our budget to appropriations. Because we're a land grant institution, we get about 7% of our budget from federal appropriations. Something called the Available University Fund is the proceeds or the interest off the PUF fund. Some of you have heard about PUF before. Because we're an institution in the Texas A&M system, we get PUF. And so it contributes about 15%. But this big yellow chunk is tuition and fees. 34% of our budget comes directly from the pockets of students and their families. This is no different than most institutions, but I want folks to understand where these come from. These smaller pieces are the things that we can impact. Gifts, like donations. Sales and services, like football teams, right? And so when we talk about the places, yes, we can continue to advocate for these things, but we have control as well, right? And we have to leverage that control. I compare that just for your review, and I can send this to the president for her to share if anybody is so inclined. I compare it to Texas A&M's budget, just so that you can see the proportionality of the budget. But the thing that you should know is that when you look at data like this, you have to look at it based upon the size of the institution and the proportion of the budget. So for this budget, we had 9,900 students at Prairie. That was fiscal year 25. A&M had almost 80,000 students, right? So yeah, you see a vast difference. We're 306 million, they 2.4 billion. That's not as much what I'm worried about. When I look at the proportions of the budget, those proportions are similar for state and tuition and fees.
Right.
We outpace them for our percentage of our budget that comes from AUF, which is the interest from PUF. We outpace them there. But you know where they outpace us? Give and sales and services, right? So I just put that out there for us to think about the things that we can control. And how do we galvanize our community, right? As we're talking about fundraising that Jeff is going to be talking about soon. But also when I think about sales and services, I'm thinking about our wonderful football stadium. That's not named for a company yet. See, that's how you bring in resources for the institution, right? So I need you all to begin thinking about who are new friends that you are ready to introduce to Prairie View, now that we have a fully operational University of Advancement and a clear plan about where we're going. This last one I just want to share with you. This is a question I oftentimes get when people ask about the budget, particularly with AUF funds, the funds that are the proceeds off the PUF, right? I don't know whether you can tell, but this is a purple line and a gold line. Everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
The purple line is Prairie View. The gold line is Texas A&M. And this is how much AUF money do we get per full-time student. That neutralizes the conversation between our institutions and size, okay? So you can see between 2002 and 2012, Prairie View received less money than A&M per student for the AUF. You'll see that? Okay. In 2012, that's when John Sharp came, he and his team, he looked at it and he said, this ain't fair. So I need to at least make it equal. He did that in 2012, 2013. And then every year after that, Prairie View has received now almost 50% more than what A&M receives. We deserve it. Right. But I am sharing this with you because this is how we continue to move the agenda. We ask for the resources we need. We use them to move the metrics, right? So that people can see the return on investment and we move forward from there. Everybody get it? Yeah. All right. I know, Madam President, all the time. I told you I needed a moment, but I got some exciting news to share with you. Some of you have asked me, where is Prairie View going with this enrollment thing? How big are we going to get? The goal is by 2035, we'll get to 13,500 students. I'm going to tell you, we have a demand so great every year. We got a waiting list every year since I've been here. We can get to 15,000 by 2035, but we have to build some things, and we are building. So current state of facilities, you all know we have over 100 facilities on our campus, 100 buildings on our campus, but our oldest is 1960, our newest is 2022. The building in 1916 is our physical plant. the building that runs all the operations. I tell people I've learned more about steam pipes and chillers and than I ever desired to, because we have the old infrastructure. So while I have $76 million in deferred maintenance above ground, when we go underground with the wells and with the steam pipes and those old pipes, we're looking at about $250 million in deferred maintenance. And so it is a significant effort for us to move those agendas. We also have a building under construction, and we have completed a housing demand study. So I can tell you a little bit about the future of housing. So this new building is going up right across the street from the MSC. If you've been on campus lately, it is taking shape quite nicely. It will be open for an open house during homecoming, although it will not be occupied until January. So during homecoming, you'll get a chance to tour the new building. It is our new teaching and academic student support services building. So that PV Care Center that I'm talking about, and academic support will be there right across the street from the union. So, you know, if you need a place to go hang out in two. Let's do that. Additionally, new spaces. We need to modernize our infrastructure, utilities, technologies, and facility improvements. I don't know if you all remember, but during my first year for the listening tour, I heard more about people's challenges with technology at homecoming than anything. Is it better? We are getting better. We called AT&T and leveraged the system to get AT&T to come out. So last coming, what they did is they bought these things called CALs, which are cellular on wheels, and it did boost the signal a bit. But now AT&T has now erected a cell phone tower on our campus. And they pay us to do it. So they have a ground meeting stuff. So cellular service is better for AT&T and things of that nature. And we're continuing to work on those improvements. There are a few things I want to share with you about facilities real quickly. We are finalizing our campus master plan, 10-year campus master plan this summer, and so we'll be able to show that during the next State of University address. But here are five projects that I want to share with you that have the impact to significantly change our institution. The first is we've already talked about the new teaching and academic student support services building that's under construction. This fall in November, the Board of Regents accepted and approved my proposal for us to self-fund for A&M system to self-fund a $120 million 900 bed residence hall. 900. And so it will open August 28th. So we move fast. The board currently has on its agenda right now for this May meeting to support one of our fastest growing schools and colleges that is going up for accreditation for our School of Public and Allied Health. We have a request on the table for $130 million of PUP funds to build a new public and allied health complex. The board is expected to vote in 2 weeks. We have owned 50 acres of land since 2016 at the intersection of University, Central Land Boulevard, and 290.
Both sides?
One side.
One side.
Right. The side that you exit when you're coming up to the campus has the entrance signs. So 50 acres. We are currently doing a feasibility study so that we will know what infrastructure and things that we need to put out there. But it is our goal that we will put a new RFP on the street in early 2027. We have talked with several developers. The goal is that we will need a brand name hotel, a conference center and event space, like an arena, retail, dining, and young individual apartment living, not necessarily students. Okay? Because we don't handle student housing on campus. Yes. But the point of opportunities like this is we own the property. Right. Somebody else comes in and builds on it, and then they pay us to use our ground. So everything we are doing is about entrepreneurship. The last thing I'll share with you is that we are also thinking about the fact that we are in one of the fastest growing regions in this state. Greater Houston is coming to us faster than we can believe. And so it is important for us as an institution that we control our neighbors. So I just bought 60 acres across the street from the state. 60 acres right across the street from the stadium, where they have some of those patio parks. Yeah, they can't rent my land for patio. But my goal is in our new campus plan, master plan, that you'll be able to see the future of the campus, right? Because the area is growing so quickly. Prairie View, as an institution, has to think about entrepreneurial opportunities to fill community needs. You have 2 master plan communities going up, a grocery store is needed somewhere. We have to accomplish this retail desert, so how we are able to broker those things will matter. I'll leave you with this, not that one. This last one before Jeff comes in to talk about fundraising. Is Prairie View is laser focused on how do we increase our wealth as an institution. You increase your wealth in 2 ways, property and endowments. Right. Our endowment, based upon this last year, this is national data, and you can only get it 2 years out. So this was 23. Prairie View, our endowment is $139.8 million. You see all the top 25 HBCUs here. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not comparing to Spelman and Morehouse. We're not the same, right? We're public. And so when I compare us to public HBCUs, the public HBCU that has the largest endowment right now is North Carolina A&M. Right? But then, oh, I'm adding to, but you know, I need you to rep Prairie today. When you look at dollar per student, you see the difference. A&T has 164 million in their endowment, but per student it's about 13,000, and for Prairie View it's about 15,000. I shared this with you, so when we're talking to you about, have you considered establishing an endowment? Yes, we'd love for you to donate for a current scholarship. But the thing about an endowment, it is perpetual. We invest it, we never spend the principal, we only spend the interest. It builds the institution's wealth and capacity for long-term standing. We are trying to ensure this institution is here for another 150 years and not having to depend on so many other folks. My last thing for you, Jeff, and then I'll turn it over to you, is our sesquicentennial. I asked that you take a picture of this slide because it has the website on it. Just in case you have not seen our sesquicentennial website that has recently gone. Our theme for the sesquicentennial is rooted in resilience, rising in Eminence. And it is a play off of the oak trees. If you think about 150 years, the only thing that has seen Prairie View in every state has been those oak trees. And the symbolism of the oak tree and what it means is important. I'm gonna come back to it for those who missed that slide. So if we think about our institution, our roots run deep, our branches stretch wide, and our promise truly endures forever. And in this first 150 years, we have weathered every storm, and we have done it with excellence. And now we're looking to the future to ascend to eminence. These are 8 signature events that you will find on that webpage. The webpage will be loaded with many other events, alumni events, traditional events that happen, but these are 8 signature events that are specific to the sesquicentennial that will be elevated beyond what most folks have seen. We will start out on the vineyard in August. We will have our opening ceremony and community day in August. It will be the day of freshman opinion. It's a Friday, August 21st, I believe. I encourage you to put it on your calendar. There is nothing more precious than getting over 2,000 brand new students and their families and alums in the video and pledging to them that we are there to support them for their 4 years. I invite you to be a part of that. And then one of your fellow alums, Harrison Guy, is putting on a production with Performing Arts Houston called Dear Prairie View. It's in the, what theater is it? I can't remember. Wortham. It's in the Wortham Theater. Tickets are on sale now. You can get them online. Lowest ticket cost is $29. That's the weekend of the Labor Day Classic. We have an art exhibit that will be traveling around the state and the nation. For history, we will have a location in Houston We will have it available during homecoming. It will be in Dallas, Austin, DC, and the like. And we have a new effort coming that we're calling PV Honors, which is an Alumni Awards. Think of it like the Academy Awards for the alums. And Jeff and his team are planning that. We'll have a leadership summit. This is a legislative year, so we will resume TV Day at the Capitol. We did it for the first time. Last legislative cycle was very successful for us, where we took students and alums to the Capitol. Students and alums that were trained were taken to the Capitol on our legislative agenda to push it. And lastly, we will end with the Sesquicentennial Gala, so stay tuned for all of those things. With that, I will conclude my remarks by just saying, I love remembering the people who laid the groundwork for us, class of 1930. They could have ever imagined that this would be their institution. And so for me, what I'm asking you all to think about is this the Prairie View you know today?
No.
With all of our collective effort and our plans, what can you imagine the next generations will inherit from us? That's what I'm asking us to contribute. And we have to. You look at me like you didn't do nothing I said. While they set up, I'll take a couple of questions. No, make sure you're please make it acceptable. Very good. Yes, sir.
All right, so the increase in research dollars, 35 around 50 point, whatever that is. How's the tech transfer office on the yard? And also something we used to talk about, started in the late 90s, is it felt like we were trained to work for somebody, where other institutions train people to own opportunities, to create the opportunities for people to work. So with that increase in research, tech transfer and startup culture, like how did that look on the?
Yeah, so we have established a new patent office and a new tech transfer office on our campus, because that is one place where I will say HBCUs have lagged. There's also, some of you may have seen recently, I'm vice chair of a board of a new association that we created called the Association of HBCU Research Institutions. It's a total of 15 institutions. Howard, Prairie View, and Morgan are at the forefront of that, so that we can leverage our collective powers to begin to infuse more tech transfer research dollars across our organization to support our faculty. The other has been this conversation that happens at institutions, because sometimes when institutions don't understand research, so you make a discovery as a faculty member that is something you could sell. There have been a lot of HBCUs that say that's a conflict of interest. Not if you have a policy, because you developed this new idea utilizing our resources, so we have to get a portion of the proceeds. So that work is underway. And so we have not had our first startup yet under that new structure, but we're anticipating, you've seen an increase in patent submissions. And so that's the first step in that. We also are seeing an increase in patent submissions among our students. So to your point, what we are trying to do, when I say we want our students to be creators of information and discoverers of knowledge, there are two things. One, we have a Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation, where we are working to infuse entrepreneurial thinking in every curriculum. Because even working for someone, entrepreneurial thinking will serve you well. But we want our students to always think about, what could I create for my own generational wealth? That's one. We also recently had a Shark Tank opportunity for student entrepreneurs. 8 students, it was more than a 5, but 8 students were able to present before Matthew Knowles and 2 other celebrity judges. Highest prize was $10,000. The next prize was, I think, 5 and then 3,000. Of that, 3 students won, and then there was an honorable mention, but all 4 students have filed patents on their product. So that's where we are.
And that is very ongoing.
It is. It will be an annual event for the Shark Tank. But the goal is that we're creating a culture, right, of entrepreneurship. Our students have always been entrepreneurs. It was great. So now in the MSC, for example, I can't remember the day of the week. It might be Mondays, it might be Wednesdays, once a month. student entrepreneurs can get a table and sell their products what they were. The students came to me and said, y'all charge us too much for tables, but we charge them anything. And so we had to have a conversation as an institution about what it means to support student entrepreneurship differently than we had before. I'll take two more, and then Jeff can present.
The question is, and it's fantastic what you have presented today. But I didn't hear anything about multi-level parking or something to. We don't man, right there, if she had to park 5 miles out to get to the campus.
Yeah.
Or either have where there are minivans or whatever that can travel through and bring shelter people to the campus.
So to answer your question, we are strengthening our shuttle processes. So if anybody has participated in commencement recently, we have to have multiple commencements a day. So we're really working hard to be able to move people, particularly those who have mobility issues. But in the campus master plan that I talked about, that plan will include everything from buildings to parking, all those things. I will tell you, parking decks are expensive and they are awful on the budget to maintain. So that's not to say that we won't do one, but that has to come at a cost. That has to have an annual fee to replenish. So when we roll out the campus master plan at homecoming, which you will see, well, it'll be before homecoming, but we'll show you at homecoming. We'll show you where the new parking opportunities will be, because that is a central part of the conversation about parking being accessible and more robust transportation beyond a golf cart. How do we begin to have buses that move about campus to move people along expeditiously? I saw one more question.
Morning, Madam President. Angela Lyons, class of 14. My question is, what advanced strategies have we put in place for the safety of our students, especially with state finding deep in water down?
Yeah. So, one of the slides I had skipped. What about campus safety? So a couple things you should know, being a chemist, I'm grounded in data. And so we did a campus safety perception survey a year ago, which gave us this understanding of how safe people feel. And so, the folks in law enforcement will say, well, our clear reports are lower than anyone, but if people feel unsafe, then they are unsafe. Right. And so we took that data, and what we realized is that late at night, people feel unsafe. Right. And the further removed they get from campus, they feel less safe. So there are a couple of things. We have embarked on some lighting projects because it was really dark in certain corners of the campus, and most of those lighting projects will be done by the end of the summer, so when students return. We have embarked on more safety, it's not the blue light, it used to be the blue lights, but opportunities for students to be able to call for help from where they are. If they need a ride, they can use an app to do those things. They are informed of how to download the app in orientation, so it's a part of it. They can share their location in those apps with family members or other classmates. We have more police patrolling the campus. We have a new chief of police that we hired. He's out right now on leave, but his team, one of the things that we said is that we don't want to feel like a police state to create more safety. And so how do we work through those things? We've seen a decrease in unwelcome traffic, right? I will tell you, when I arrived, I worked on 5 different college campuses. Prairie View had more traffic coming in there and dropping off unwanted products than we desired. We've also seen a decrease in gun confiscation because the amount of weapons in the state, right, that exists, but you can't have a weapon in North Central. And so we are really having to invoke some actions to create a more safe environment on our campus. The other thing that we've done as far as with the community is that we have partnered with colleagues across the community. I established a task force, last fall, partnering with the county judge for Waller County and the sheriff for Waller. Because there was this growing perception that Prairie View A&M University's homecoming was a burden to the city or to the county. And one of the slides I skipped in there was when I talk about economic impact, we bring $385 to Waller County. And so when I talk to them about it in that way, I'm saying, so what you're feeling is the pain of having an institution in your midst that is a destination. Y'all talking about this wrong, right? And so we are, whether you want it or not, we are Waller County University, right? So you need to own us, right? And so own as in partner. So we can close it. But my point in that conversation, we had every life and safety unit across Walker County. We had the Texas Department of Public Safety, Texas Emergency Management, and they came up with a plan to execute with no additional funds from the university or the system, sharing the resources across us. And this year's homecoming, we were interrupted by a storm. But I will say, I think our guests felt not restricted, right? Yes, there are rules, and we had to get straight, and we had them plastered everywhere. But we are hoping we're getting to a place that we will become a community, right? We still got a long way to go, but the work is unfair.